I'm Trader, and this is the fourth video in the series of VOD commentaries I'm doing of my Mythic kill videos for Amirdrassil. Fourth boss we did is Council of Dreams. So yeah, let's get started with the talents as per usual. This is a 3-target setup that the Priest Discord people have cooked up. It's basically just Mind Spike with Shadow Crash and N'Zoth. That's like the core of the build. The idea being you have 2 people stacked basically the entire time, so you just crash those and manually Vampiric Touch the third. I'll mess this up repeatedly during the kill, but that's the theory at least. On the class side, nothing interesting. I don't think there's anything special you can do with Angel's Mercy. There's damage happening all the time. You can just spam stuff on cooldown if you feel like it. There's no super spooky moments that you need the extra 20 seconds for, or that you need any cooldown for in particular in general. So yeah, trinkets, yet again, I've not actually put any thought into them, other than not wanting to play Suncaller, because, well, yeah, sure, it probably hits 2, maybe even 3 each time. Most of the time, they're just going to be spread out. I don't want to be in melee for the explosion if I can avoid it. So yeah, I just played stats, also because stats work regardless of target count. Like if they're spread, the stats are going to do basically the same thing. Whereas Suncaller, you're kind of relying on, okay, all of them are stacked. And also the target scaling on it isn't particularly insane anyway. So yeah, just play trinkets, nothing crazy. And let's get into the fight. PI target, I'm doing a Boomkin, because Boomkin is broken in this fight. But that's about it. He'll die soon anyway, so it won't really matter. I'll switch to the Elemental Shaman, just like our Disc Priest, whose target is also dying, the Rogue. But yeah, you just send your CDs and pump Pip, because you are ranged, and melee will be hitting mainly these 2 for the entire fight, the bear and the horse. So you hit the butterfly. Later on, I'll end up hitting those 2 a bit as well, especially at the end. We end up having the horse have the highest health. You can see I just soaked the charge. You can just walk into the boss model. It's really easy to get hit by. It hits a little bit behind him as well, which is going to mess up your melees a little bit. But yeah, it's convenient for his ranged. You just stand vaguely in the boss and you'll be fine. That's also one point where you can send CDs just anytime the boss presses charge, just press them. Most of the mechanics will be handled by either the tanks or the ducks, where we have 2 people just spend the entire fight as ducks. These 2, Draco and Lucky. So they'll be handling most of the eating of the grass, they'll be polymorphing the boss. Sometimes the polymorph is a bit late, it doesn't really matter. The AoE doesn't do crazy amounts of damage, even though you'd think it would. Until the very end, where it does fuck you up. The other thing you want to do for the javelins is just spread out. When you get dispelled, it'll pop, and you don't want them all to pop on top of each other, because that'll hurt. Yeah, so again, the tanks are just stacking generally the horse and the bear on top of each other, and then the butterfly is on its own. Yeah, so if you get the duck, make sure you don't eat too much grass, because you want 1 piece left to break the song with. And then it takes like 2 ticks, and you just move out again. With the weak aura pack I use, there's like a ding, quest completed kind of sound when I'm done. So that's the cue I still end up ignoring, but it's there. Yeah, so this fight, just like Volcross and Igira really, is just survive. There's no checks of any kind really. You just want to live, which you generally do by not standing in the green circles from other people, and by just sending your defensive CDs on CD more or less. Yeah. And when your red paladin calls that it's melee soak, despite it being the range soak, you don't listen, otherwise you will die, like our rogue did. Make sure you only actually soak when it's your turn, which in our case is on the even charges. That's when range soaks, and then odd is melee. Here you'll see me do some incredible shadow gameplay, where I just don't have Vampiric Touch up for the first like 5 seconds of my CDs, and also 5 or so seconds before that. Just absolutely no reason, I just forgot. So don't do that, make sure you actually have your dots up. Which, for most of the fight, should just be via crash and one Vampiric Touch, but sometimes they end up spread out a bit, or you miss your crash because the boss charges away or something. Just make sure you actually maintain dots. And then don't be greedy like I was here with the Javelin. I should have moved a bit further out. It didn't hurt anybody, but just for safety. And then one thing as well, you when you're about to get ducked, you actually get a debuff beforehand that tells you, hey, you're about to get ducked. So when you see that, position near some grass. In my case, there is no grass, like all of it got eaten. I'm not allowed to eat the middle grass because we need it for the song. So I just let my duck time out. Making sure not to hit anybody because we have ducks on Draco and Lucky already. They didn't need a new one, which they do now. So you can see I get a duck from somebody else, then I transfer it to both of them. I should have only given it to one, but I'm in CDs. I don't want to be a duck, so I just hit them both and got out and kept playing. You can see they mess it up again and don't end up having a duck for a bit, so they get a new one. I want to say it's our Holy Paladin who ends up giving them a duck, but it doesn't really matter. Just make sure the two duck mains have a duck between them, and make sure you end up in the charges that you've been assigned. It's a really long fight, so you'll get a second potion. I believe I mess mine up and just don't press it with CDs because I'm done. So make sure you don't do that. Just use them with your PI at 6-ish minutes or at 8 if your fight is really long. In our case, it died just after 8 minutes, so that would have been bad. But if your guild is slow or you have even more people die than we did, then that's also an option. But just 6 works fine. There'll be a boss in execute range at that point, so you'll get your twists. So there's no further gain really from holding it for longer. Yeah. Here you'll notice again I'm going to get ducked, and this all gets eaten. I'm very upset, so I just sit down and do nothing because there's nothing I can do, and then 3 new ones spawn. I just eat those and get out. And then, yeah, you can see the boss health. Pip and the bear are decently low, but the horse is a bit higher. So the call is made to just hit the horse a bit to make sure it isn't as far ahead as it is at the moment. Because, yeah, ideally you want to kill Pip and the horse first because the bear is so easy to cleave that it'll naturally be low. Yeah, there's not really much more happening in the fight. The main time you take damage actually is immediately on pull when there's a lot of grass up because you get debuff stacks for each patch of grass, which means you take damage. And that's why you have 2 duck assigned people who just spend the entire fight eating grass to make sure nobody else really takes damage. Like you'll see, we'll be back down to like a handful of stacks here instead of 15 plus. Where on pull you have like 30 or something stupid, so you're just taking infinite damage. None of the overlaps between the boss abilities really have anything impactful for you because you don't have to stop the bear doing his big channel. That's the ducks. You don't face the charge into the horse. That's the tanks. So all you really do is make sure you get into the grass for the song, and that's about it. And then at the end of the fight, just make sure they die within 15 seconds of each other, so they don't respawn. And then, yeah, you win. That's the fight. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and put those in the comments. And hopefully next week there'll be another video or two of Anime and Laradar. Thank you for watching.